Here we go. Imagine glancing at your phone to find the answer, who invented telephone, and a minute later, it's all blank in your mind.
What?
We all do this, and researchers call it digital amnesia, the tendency to forget information that we trust our devices will remember. In fact, one study of 6,000 people found a direct link between the availability of data at the click of a button and a failure to commit that data to memory. In other words, if Google can fetch this data quickly, we are not likely to store this data in our memories. It's like outsourcing our brain to the internet. A clever definition from Kaspersky Lab is exactly that. Digital amnesia is forgetting information. You trust a digital device to store and remember it for you. Digital amnesia is not a sci-fi scenario. It's happening to all of us. Smartphones, search engines, and AI assistants like Siri, Alexa, and ChatGPT have rewired how we handle the facts. Researchers note that we now rely on the internet as a source of knowledge rather than remembering it for ourselves. In another lab experiment, people who thought facts would be saved for later simply did not remember them, as well as those who knew the facts were erased. And this is also called Google effect. In short, if you think you can Google it, your brain says no need to memorize it. As Columbia psychologist Betsy Sparrow put it, we remember less through knowing the information itself than by knowing where the information can be found.
Overall findings are that when people don't know things, they tend to think about the computer first. They think about the place to find it.
Digital amnesia grew from the habits that we always had, like writing reminders or asking friends for the facts. But now it is supercharged by technology. These days, most of us treat our phones like a personal memory bank. In a recent survey, 91% of people admitted they use the internet and devices as a tool of remembering and an extension for their brain. In other words, we literally think Google as a part of our mind. This is not limited to trivia. In one study, 44% of Americans said that their smartphone holds almost everything they need to know or recall, from appointments to family birthdays to entire photo albums. Globally, the pattern is similar. This reliance has crept into all areas of life. We no longer cringe at forgetting a phone number or a friend's birthday. Our phones will notify us with reminders. We ask Alexa who won the World Cup in 2014 and promptly forget the answer. We even ask Siri to do math for us instead of calculating mentally. All of this convenience means many everyday facts never make it into our long-term memories. And that very idea has become the definition of digital amnesia. Worrisomely, some stories reported that if their phones were lost or hacked, about half of the people would be devastated at losing photos, contact, and important memories stored in the only device. In fact, 1 in 4 younger women said that they would panic if their phone crashed because it's the only place where they keep cherished photos and contacts. At work, the effect appears too. Kaspersky's Digital Amnesia at Work study in 2016 showed employees felt more productive and creative when they did not have to remember the small details, trusting their devices to store it. Offloading small details such as phone numbers, addresses, deadlines actually freed them to focus on more complex tasks. In their words, the new connected minds approach lets us achieve more and store information in ways that were never before possible. This is the silver lining. By not sweating the trivial stuff, people report having richer and more creative thinking time. Digital amnesia touches learning and cognition in big ways. If we rely on phone for facts, we may not practice retrieving information from memory, and retrieval is crucial for learning. Psychologists emphasize active recall as a key study strategy. For example, Cornell professor Nancy Dennis advises students to test themselves on material rather than just rereading it, because testing strengthens the memory trace. If students know that they can always snap a diagram and always look for answer online, they might skip the mental workout and end up forgetting the material that will appear exam time. Some lab studies even suggest that constantly taking photos instead of just experiencing the events can impair memory of those events. For example, a 2018 science paper found that people who photograph objects tend to remember details more shallowly than those who don't. Similarly, a recent health blog notes that smartphones photography is speeding up memory loss, turning our memories into kind of third-person overview because we rely on pictures instead of our minds. The act of outsourcing moment capturing to our phones means brain has less opportunity to encode the memory. On global scale, this shift may alter how we think. An international survey found that 63% of people agree their devices let them access and store information easily, and nearly half say they use the digital tools to remember things just in case. In fact, our brains are adapting. Why remembering a long route when you have a GPS in your phone? But experts believe that this could have the downsides. Neuroscientist Oliver Hart points out that memory is like a muscle. If you stop using your memory, it will get worse, creating a vicious cycle of dependence. Indeed, some fear that over time, heavy reliance on GPS or online facts might reduce activity in brain regions like hippocampus that handle memory and navigation, potentially weakening these skills. And with that being said, not all experts see it as purely negative. Many note that human brains never needed to remember arbitrary details like parking meter times or bus schedules. That means devices free us to focus on more meaningful problems. Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience Chris Bird observes we have always offloaded things into external devices like writing notes, and that has enabled us to have more complex lives. He added, I don't have a problem with using external devices to augment our thought processes or memory processes. We are doing it more, but that frees up time to concentrate, focus, and remember other things. In other words, digital amnesia might just be the next step in our evolution of intelligence. A partnership between mind and machine that lets us tackle more complex challenges. Most experts say outsourcing memory is fine for trivial or one-time facts, but it should be a choice. If you always depend on Google, you might be shortchanging your brain's ability to remember. Some neuroscientists like Dr. Catherine Mills at UCL reminds us that forgetting itself is not inherently bad. In fact, forgetting useless info is normal. To make most of the technology and keep your brain sharp, try these practical tips. Use tech strategically. Rely on your phone for convenience, but don't let it replace all memory. For example, if you look up a fact like historical date or a formula, pause and try to repeat it by yourself once or twice. Engaging with the information briefly helps commit it to memory. Practice active recall. Before reaching for Google or notes, challenge yourself. Trying to learn something new? Quiz yourself later without looking. This helps build stronger memory traces. Write things down in the old-fashioned way. Making lists or notes by hands engages your mind differently. Whether it's a glossary list or study note, jotting down things helps reinforce memory more than typing or saving in the app. Play brain games. Use apps or activities that exercise memory. Fun quizzes, puzzles, and language games like Duolingo are not just time fillers. They actually practice the skill of recall, review, and connect. Whenever you learn something new by reading an article or asking a digital assistant, take a moment to relate it to what you already know. Making connection or explaining it to someone else cements your memory. So does Google make us forget things? In a way, yes. But the key is awareness. If we know digital amnesia exists, that you now know, we can actually choose how much information we can let Google remember for us. It might be the time to ask ourselves, should I really rely on my phone for this? Or perhaps can I trust my brain to remember just this once? As we navigate the age of information, we might think of our mind not as fading but as adapting, like muscles that are now working together with machines. The question is not whether devices influence our memory, but how we use them. By using technology to amplify our thinking, we can keep our memories fit and make the tech work for us. After all, human memory is incredible. Let's make sure Google just facilitates it rather than completely owning it. And with all this, thank you for watching. I really hope you like this video. I'll see you soon. Bye.